Maggie. Thanks for coming. I have a blog called She Let Me Eat Cake, and I started it about, it's 4 years old, just over 4 years old, just before my son was diagnosed with a gluten intolerance, a pretty severe gluten intolerance, and a dairy intolerance, and an egg intolerance, and a garlic intolerance, and the list goes on. But gluten was the biggest one for us because my husband has celiac disease, and he was diagnosed about 9 years ago. So we'd already been pretty comfortable living with the gluten-free thing for about 5 years, but when my son was diagnosed, that was like, oh my God, like this is brutal, because I just didn't really know where to start, even though we were already gluten-free. With the egg and the dairy thing, I was like, oh. So once we figured things out, it was great, and it's been great. We decided as a family to go gluten-free altogether. I was already meat-free, my husband was gluten-free, obviously, and we had a 1-year-old, and we had kept her gluten-free simply because we had the knowledge that, first of all, their babies aren't quite ready to digest gluten until they're at least 1, but because of my husband's celiac disease, we wanted to play it a little bit safer. And I'm really glad we did. She still has never had gluten, so we're not sure if she's intolerant or not, but she's not missing out and she's not unhealthy. So it's nothing, I'm sure she'll try it one day, but for now we're going to keep her gluten-free. When it affects my sleep every night and whether or not she's sitting on the toilet for hours. When she gets older and she's a little bit more independent, I'll let her test it out, which I'm sure both of them will do. So so my blog is all about gluten-free living, and I started it at the urging of my husband because I love to bake, and I started gluten-free baking pretty much on his diagnosis. But back then, just 9 years ago, even you have to know that the market was not at all like it is today, and I was making a lot of hockey pucks for him and really good door stoppers, but he still ate them with a smile on his face. So, but it's progressed, and thankfully I learned a lot, and I started he said, start a blog, and so I have a great blog which I love, lots of recipes, and my address is on there. There's a special page for you guys if you want to go to it. You can get a free ebook with some of the most popular recipes from my blog all in one spot, okay? So the first tip, Ronnie Lynn wanted me to do focus on family, because I've been doing this for 4 years plus, and over 9 years with my husband. So it was pretty easy for me to come up with some tips on how to run a gluten-free household, because that's just what I've been living. And the first decision we made was, let's eliminate gluten. My husband has celiac disease, and it's safer for if you have celiac disease. Can you just show me a show of hands who is gluten-free in their, who has gluten-free member in their house? Okay, just so I know the audience. So my husband, it's safer if you have a severe gluten allergy, like celiac disease, to not have any gluten contamination possibilities. So that was one reason why we went gluten-free. My husband Pete has a sister who, whoops, I'm supposed to stay in front of the camera, it doesn't move with me. I like to roam around. Okay, I'll try and stay focused, stay with me. My husband's sister has been diagnosed gluten-free for about 30 years. And she now has, imagine 30 years ago, I can't even imagine. She's seen it all. And she lived in a house and didn't have the knowledge, simply because it wasn't available, that cross-contamination is a big risk for people with celiac disease. She has a second autoimmune disease right now called scleroderma, and it's quite debilitating. And we just feel that a lot of it had to do with the fact that there was gluten crumbs in her toaster, in her peanut butter jar, in her oven, and they just didn't know that that could cause people harm. Her harm in particular. So it can take up to 6 months for the gut to heal from a cross-contamination incident. So that's a long time, and that's a lot of ill health, and your body working overtime trying to compensate and get you better. So that whole eliminating gluten was a pretty simple decision. The other reason we did it is because I have 2 little kids. I did not want to take my kids to the, Tim Hortons and have my son be like, why can she have Timbits and I can't. You know, if you have kids, you know that you just want to eliminate as many battles as you can. So that was one for us. And you're no less healthy by going gluten-free, provided you're making the right choices on that gluten-free lifestyle. So my daughter, although she's never had gluten, she's totally fine. We still say to the school that she doesn't eat gluten, and everyone knows. And I don't eat gluten anymore, and I feel great for it too. And I miss the convenience maybe of bread, but that's it. The other thing is, like, I really do think if you do decide to keep gluten in your house while there's someone living gluten-free, that you should have 2 toasters and 2 cutting boards, you know, a pantry that's maybe for the gluten-free family member and a pantry for everyone else. It's simply safer. Not so much a concern if you're just gluten intolerant, you're trying it out, you feel better that way. But if you have celiac disease, it's pretty important that you stay free of gluten. I was listening to a great seminar the other day by this doctor, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but Alessio Fasano is his name. And he said, the gut is not like Las Vegas. What happens in the gut does not stay in the gut. And I thought that was funny because it's true, what happens in the gut, so, you know, everything happens in our gut. And what happens there, inflammation, gluten exposure, it goes through the whole body and in fact causes inflammation throughout the body, and that's what he means by it doesn't stay in the gut. So all those symptoms that people feel, like joint pain, bloating, maybe eczema. If you were in Joy's talk just before mine, she mentioned a lot of symptoms that going gluten-free helps with. That's because it affects your whole body, not just your gut. It doesn't stay in the gut. Okay. And newly diagnosed people often have something called leaky gut because their gut has been so damaged that it needs some time to heal. So keeping them as gluten-free as possible is extremely important. My next point was that find an amazing and healthy gluten-free bread that everyone likes. This took us a long time, and really I wish I had known this when my husband was diagnosed, although that time El Pedo was like the only one available, and I haven't tried them in a long time. I think it's because we have an extreme bias to them. No offense to them now, but 9 years ago, it was not very tasty. It was sort of like, that's pizza bread. You know, leave that alone. We don't even want to try it. But now there's so many amazing gluten-free breads on the market. My favorite is here today is Organic Works. I'm not sure if you guys have stumbled across them yet, but you need to go try them out. Healthy ingredients, tasty. They're also dairy-free and egg-free, which is great for my family. And a great company out of London, Ontario. If you have any questions, concerns, go talk to Peter, the owner. He's a fabulous man and really just wants to grow his company and help people. And what's great about him is when we lived in London, we moved to Peterborough 4 years ago, I was like, I need to bring your bread. What can I do? Because I knew that it would be hard for us to live without that. Organic Works. And he was more than happy if I found a location to ship the bread. So if you don't live where Organic Works is, talk to Peter, the owner, and he'll help you get it arranged, shipped to your store. Okay? There's also Udi's, brands like Udi's, which are really popular, but I really see that as a transition product. They make it so that you don't miss the gluten. They use a lot of white flours, they use corn syrup, a lot of unhealthy ingredients. So Udi's to me is like that transition product to get you off of gluten and into the gluten-free world. And then once you're sort of like, okay, I can live without my gluten, Udi's is helping me. I'm going to now transition to something that doesn't have white rice flour, maybe has quinoa flour, millet flour, amaranth, gluten-free oat flour, that sort of thing. Udi's, a brand like Udi's is also great for when you're in a pinch. So if you're traveling and all you can get is to the Loblaws or Sobeys or something like that, and you can grab your Udi's there. Great. My kids love their hot dog buns, and so I buy those for my kids because it makes them really happy and it makes my son feel a little bit more normal at school. So you just need to remember, a lot of people wonder, like, where can we get our fiber from? Like, what's the fiber count in these gluten-free products? Well, it's not there. So what I tell people is to get your fiber from fruits and vegetables instead. As you can see on my shirt, it says eat more greens, because I'm a believer in, like Joy, in just eating more whole foods instead. And that's the great thing for us about transitioning to a gluten-free diet, is we've also transitioned to a more whole foods diet, which has been amazing. And another option too is Tori's, who is here today, and Bunner's. They make great gluten-free breads too. I think I took the last Tori's loaf of gluten-free bread today though, but if you can get to the bakeries, they make really good, healthier, using healthier flours. Number 3 is fall in love with baking and get the whole family to join in. So I have lots of people who say, I don't like to bake, and I'm like, oh gosh, you're in trouble. Like, if you don't like to bake, it's going to be hard. But hopefully you can learn to love it and get your kids involved. You know, my husband now makes the waffles because he really likes, I have a great recipe for waffles, and he really loves making them, or eating them, and I wasn't making them fast enough, so he started making them, and the kids love helping me with cupcakes, cookies, that sort of thing. So try and get everyone involved, and it's also a great way to save money and choose healthier gluten-free flours, okay, if you're doing your own baking. The next one is batch cook or batch bake. We try and do this too, and you know, make a big batch of rice or quinoa and have it for throughout the week. We always have some of that in the fridge. When I make pasta, I usually make extra pasta, just so for quick things, so you don't fall back on those old, quick gluten-filled things. If you have it in the fridge, if you plan ahead and menu plan, for instance, then you're going to find it much easier to stick to your plan. Does anyone here menu plan? Yeah, I just find it way easier at 5:30 when I'm like, I think we'll just have like nachos and diet cheese on them tonight. You know, there's nothing nutritional in those. It's really yummy, and we do have it every now and then. But if I have that menu plan, we have a big chalkboard in our kitchen where I plan for the week what we're eating, and I found that has been a huge help for us for just sticking to not only gluten-free eating, but healthy gluten-free eating. And batch baking. Today I brought some cupcakes to share with you guys, and I did an extra, while I was mixing that up, I did an extra mix of the dry ingredients in a Ziploc bag. I just label it cupcakes, and then I put it in my freezer, and I know, you know, next time a birthday party comes around for my son or daughter, I just pull that out and it's half done. So batch baking is also a good idea. When we make pancakes, we freeze them. I put pieces of parchment paper between each one, and or between 3, say, if you might have like 3 in a serving or 3 a day, and then freeze them that way. You can do the same with cookie dough. I scoop my cookie dough out, put it on a plate, let it just freeze for 20 minutes, and then I scoop it all into a baggie, and I have cookies ready to just pull out and bake, basically. Okay, so there's batch cooking and batch baking really help make gluten-free household run a little bit smoother. And then another thing that you can do is buy in bulk and on discount days. A couple of my local health food stores have discount days, and I just make sure to always hit those up with my big list of things that I need to get, or my more expensive items. And I also buy through, I'm part of a buy-in group through the Ontario National Food Co-op. Has anyone ever heard of the ONFC? It's out of Toronto. It's a great bulk buying. So you need like a group of people. Maybe I think there's 5 people in ours, and you can order once a month and have it delivered to one house. All the items, and it's cheaper. You buy the items closer to cost and in bulk, and it's awesome. So that's the Ontario National Food Co-op. You just need to get about 5 people who would be interested in joining in. Thanks. Here come the cupcakes. The recipe for the cupcakes are in the ebook, which if you go to my website there at the bottom, you'll get the recipe there. I also always have a loaf of Organic Works in our freezer, just to make sure that I always have something. My kids really like O'Dough's. Is anyone familiar with O'Dough's breads? I like them too. Healthier ingredients. I think it's garbanzo flour that they like to use, and flax, and just healthier choices. Not white rice flour as your first ingredient, or corn syrup. Like we should all know by now that we need to stay away from corn syrup. If you missed Joy's talk about sugar, she was saying 150 pounds of hidden sugar an adult has a year. So corn syrup is not quite hidden, but in your bread, you don't need corn syrup in your bread. I'm sorry, right? Really? Right. Okay, so I always have some extra bagels and extra bread. And today, Organic Works has a great deal on their bread. A lot of the people here buy as much as you can here, as much as you have room for. Believe it or not, I don't have a chest freezer. I should, and one day I will, and I'll be in heaven. I'm gonna have a like super awesome fridge made for like Whole Foods eating instead of like I'm cramming like greens into my crispers. It just doesn't work. I need to design a fridge for people who eat more greens. You can just buy bulk on things like today. You could take home 10 loaves of Organic Works, freeze it, and you're set, you know, and you bought it at $5 a loaf, where at my health food store it's $8 a loaf. So you have to find ways like that to save money. Number 5 is find some gluten-free, friendly, and safe restaurants that everyone in your family loves, the gluten-free eaters and the gluten eaters. We find that like Thai and Indian restaurants and Mexican restaurants are great, authentic Mexican restaurants, because you know it's usually corn tortillas and rice dishes and that sort of thing. Our favorite is a Mexican restaurant in Peterborough that we go to all the time. But more and more places have gluten-free menus, which is great. If you're with someone who has celiac disease and the smallest amount can affect them, you might want to talk to the staff about how aware they are of cross-contamination. And sometimes you are going to have to do the educating. Some places will even let you go in to the kitchen and look around, and you know, you want to make sure that it's safe for your family member or yourself, okay? So find that gluten-free restaurant that everyone loves and build a relationship. So go all the time, and not all the time, but like make it your regular spot. And if you build relationships with these people, they're going to take care of you. I think living a gluten-free lifestyle is about building relationships to make it easier for you, because you need people to help you and to source ingredients and to be thinking, oh, you know, this family always comes in. We should maybe just get some gluten-free bread for them. You know, if you have your local restaurant that you go to, it's great. And make sure that you ask about fryers too, because a lot of deep fryers like have chicken nuggets, for instance, and French fries, but then there's a lot more that can have a dedicated gluten-free fryer, because more people are demanding it and finding information, you know, becoming aware of it. Number 6 is empower your family. This one was really important. When my son was 3 when he was diagnosed with gluten intolerance, and we started right away to educate him about how to talk to people. And I think that's really important, is they need to know what is going on, and it empowers them. And because they're going to eventually, like he's 7 now, so he goes to play dates, he goes to birthday parties, he goes to school. He needs to know what to say about the way he eats. And it's pretty cute when, you know, my daughter now is more, she's 5, and it's really cute to say, is this gluten-free, you know, to hear her say that. And I think it's really important that we just keep them part of it. And I try to talk to my kids about thinking of food as fuel. Like, we have come so far from food as fuel. We're just sort of stuffing, you know, trying to like emotional eat and like feel better and like, oh, that tastes good, and you know, I'm on the run, I gotta eat because like it's noon and everybody else is eating, and I'm not gonna be, you know, like we forget the whole reason we're eating is so that our bodies can work effectively. And I try to teach that to my kids, because my son definitely does struggle with the fact that he's different and he doesn't love it, but you know, he's like, I can't eat all of the stuff that everyone else can eat. And I'm like, really, for now, it's sort of, I say, well, like what? Because, okay, goldfish are the last remaining processed food that isn't gluten-free, right? I understand that. I'm searching for like a little goldfish. I did try to make him once, but you can't make a very tasty goldfish cracker with diet cheese. You really need that cheese, that cheddar cheese in there. And we still keep him relatively dairy-free. His gut has healed, so he's now eating eggs again, thankfully, and a little bit of goat cheese every now and then. So my kids really know, and I also talk to them about like immune soldiers and how like our body, we've got these immune soldiers in our body that want to like help us and fight us. And so we're having like candy, which my kids do get every now and then. They know that you're kind of giving the bad guy some bombs. But if you're having fruit, then you're giving your immune soldiers bombs. So I try and talk in their language and empower them, because I know that when he goes to high school, he's going to stuff his face on a pizza. I know that that's going to happen, and I have to be okay with that, but I want him to make the connection. Oh, I feel like crap right now. my mom was right. You know? So I just want them to have a place to come back to always, you know, that feeling good, and that's why, because it's fuel for our bodies. It's like how we teach our kids to read. We need to teach our kids about nutrition, to be good, literate nutrition people, you know? I need a better word for that, nutrition people. Nutritives? I don't know. I think another reason to empower them is to prevent you from feeling like you need to hover around like the Goodyear blimp. You know, you don't need to hover around them like a helicopter and be so worried. You need to free them and let them go, which is kind of a hard thing to do. Get to know the staff at your local health food store. That's been a big one for me, because when my son comes home and is like, I want Oreos, Mommy, I saw these things today at school, I want some. Well, I can go to my health food store, the people that I know, and be like, who's in charge of purchasing? I know them. I think when they see me coming now, they're like, there's Maggie, let's run. And I'm like, listen, I saw this product online, I know you can get gluten-free Oreos, whatever, marshmallows, whatever. Can you bring them in? And my health food store has been really good about doing that. Lisa is here from the Gluten-free Smart Store too, so you can talk to her after if there's a product that's not on her website. I put her website, but not the Smart Store, on the list of blogs. So Lisa's a great resource too. Just like I said, building relationships, and you can also order bulk and maybe get discounts. Like we get a discount at one of our health food stores because I shop there almost every day. Number 9 is take road trips to gluten-free bakeries or gluten-free events like this one. I took my kids to the Gluten-free Expo earlier, was it September? And they were like kids in a candy store. You know, it's so awesome for them to, you know, and for you to not have to worry, like, yep, it's gluten-free. They're like, really? And they can have whatever, you know, I didn't bring them today. I didn't even tell them that I was coming to the gluten-free garage because I knew they'd be like, what? I want to go, but I just couldn't do this and be a mom and a speaker today. So I have 2 boxes of Bunners because they love taking a road trip to Bunners or Tori's Bake Shop or the Gluten-Free Garage and stocking up on cupcakes and fun things like that. So they'll be really happy to see me tonight when I come home with some cupcakes and some donuts. They've never tried the donuts from Tori's. So just little things like that that are exciting and fun, and you can do every now and then when you realize, you know, maybe your son comes home from school and it's like, man, like this is hard, or even when you're like, I just need a break. I just need something fun. I just need cheering up, whatever. Emotional eating, all the way. I wonder how we start that emotional eating thing. And come into the city, you know, that's what we do. We come into the city, we go to Bunners, and my husband and I love fresh restaurants, so we go to Fresh, and the whole family's happy. So I think you need to find little fun road trips like that. We even went to Chicago for a gluten-free expo there about 3 years ago, and that was really fun. The kids still talk about it, even though they're almost too young to remember it. And then lastly, always look on the bright side. I'm an optimist, so I think it's really important to just be positive and focus. You know, my whole family is healthier for it. I am about to finish my diploma in holistic nutrition, and all because of this gluten-free thing. Marrying this guy who, you know, a few years into marriage was going to be diagnosed with celiac disease. Little did I know that I would be here doing this amazing thing, surrounded by great people, and eating much healthier than I ever imagined. You know, it empowers you. We need to take back our power. Right now, I feel like it's in the hands of surgeons, you know, and 10 years from now who need to fix us. But right now, today, we can do it ourselves and take control of our health. And I think that's pretty awesome. My husband and I call it preventative health care. Although our expenses are maybe a bit more expensive, it's preventative health care. We're going to save money in the long run, and my husband's self-employed, and I'm a student and a blogger, and we can't afford to take sick days. So instead, we make choices like this about eating healthy and spending a little bit more money here and there. So I also included some cookbooks that we really like. Here's some of them up here if anyone wants to look at them after. Ricky Heller was here earlier. She's a Toronto author. This is a great one. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free. And refined sugar-free. This is a great one too. There's no pictures in it, but Amy has the blog Simply Sugar and Gluten-free. It's a really good blog too. Super Healthy Cookies is a great one. Also a blogger who did that one. Anyone who's grain-free, because more and more people are realizing that grains might also cause them some problems. Kelly Rosinia from The Spunky Coconut has some great cookbooks out for grain-free. Same with Alana Amsterdam, grain-free cupcakes.